Before I go into my presentation, I must say that a good broadcaster excels not only on radio, on air, he or she excels in the classroom as a lecturer or a professor, in a seminar as a speaker, or even a listener who doesn't speak but sometimes gives a suggestion, a very small suggestion that goes a long way in making things effective, more effective. So, being a good broadcaster is not easy, but once you have achieved it, you can assure yourself that in the long run, in the life too, that you will live on this earth, you will be a successful person. And I want to mention an example. A fellow who stood first in the 10+2 exam here, and that is no mean achievement. And he now works in USA in the very low temperature laboratory at MIT. He told me, generally in this part of the country, we address each other as Dada. So you know, everyone knows. Saurav Ganguly is famous Dada, of course. So he told me, Manasda, when my paper came out in Nature, people told me, how is this possible? I told them, I learned from people who spoke on radio. And that is why my paper is not understood by people in my discipline only, but from other disciplines as well. So that is the edge that you get when you become a good broadcaster. So that is something I must share with you. And telling about broadcasting is not only limiting us to radio, on air or off air, but taking an advantage over others in life like that. So, Dr. Debral, how should I go about? Should I start uploading or presenting from my end, or you will be doing it?
Oh, sir, I think there is a problem from our
Okay,
side.
let's see. I believe I'll be able to do.
Okay.
Let's all hope it goes well.
It will go well, sir.
So let me see. This is the screen that I have put up, and I will go to the full screen mode from beginning. Okay, is this visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. So a good beginning is winning half of the war. We are not at war, but anyway, the proverb remains. So science communication through radio, I kept the title simple so that people can connect with it. And let's go on. Time is short, and we should be able to explain whatever we have in mind in this time. Now, I initially planned to present a history of science communication through radio from different corners of the world, but later on I thought that it would be more effective if I gave you, or better, share my experiences about how to become a good broadcaster, a science broadcaster. So that's why I would be focusing straight away on Akashvani, how we do science here, what are the loopholes, what are the achievements, and of course, what should we do to become a good broadcaster. Now, All India Radio, as you all know, started in 1927. This is written in the history books, those who study journalism and mass communication. I have been teaching mass communication since 2003. Everyone knows that 1927 was the year when All India Radio started, but after 1947, the whole shape changed. And the focus was on developing a free country, its agriculture, health of the people, women and child, focus on them, and of course many other things like classical music, etc., etc. Science was integrated into the whole texture, but in a scanty manner. There were not many science talks or science based discussions on All India Radio. All this changed in 1977 when the central government decided to set up science cell in about 8 cities of the country, and that included, of course, Delhi, Chennai, Mumbai, Kolkata, and other important centers like Ahmedabad, Bengaluru, like that. So in 1977, Science Cell started on the very first day of the year, 1st of January, and you'll be glad to know that the 1st of January is the birthday of Acharya Satyendranath Bosu, who is a pioneering scientist whose name remains connected with Albert Einstein because of his contribution, because of the changes that he made in the thermodynamics that Max Planck suggested, Max Planck gave us as a theory. So on that date, the science cell started in those cities, and there was more time allotted to science broadcast. So people were able to listen to science news, analysis, and of course there were programs on fighting superstition. Because without fighting superstition, you cannot really establish a scientific culture and spread the spirit of science in the society. So those were the programs. There were several programs initially. In fact, science-based songs. I mean, you could ask, what is a science-based song? A song is a song that is to be enjoyed. But when the message is about science, when the message is about fighting superstition, we can, with your permission, call it a science-based song. Now, the first major project, we were doing programs in every city. We were doing programs in our own way, and we were telling the listeners what has happened in different corners of the country, which laboratory is doing what is being conducted in USA or in UK or in Hungary. We were telling that in our own way, in our vernacular language. But the major project that actually caught the imagination of the people, the listeners, was in 1988, and this was titled The Methods of Science. In Bangla it was called Vigyan and Niyom Kanun. I believe the word would be almost similar in Hindi. So Methods of Science was in 1988, a 13-part serial. Vigyan Prasar was still not on the scene at that point of time. Later on, it took on the responsibilities in their own way. And in 1988, this 13-part serial was so popular, people asked for rebroadcast of the same, and it has been rebroadcast several times. And it is told in a simple way. Our method has been to produce docudramas. What is a docudrama? Docudrama, the essential thing is to document or present the documentation that has already been done, meaning present the facts. Along with that, bring in some characters, put in some dramatization, enactment, and that is a docudrama. The features of a drama will all be there, dialogues, sound effects, ambient music will all be there, but the final thing that we are aiming for is delivering a message that is based on science. Okay, so that was the first major project in India, and initiated by NCSTC, DST Government of India, and broadcast by All India Radio. So people have fond memories of that, though those people who have already become senior citizens now.
Sir, I think your slide is not moving, I think.
This is the problem, This is the problem. This is always the problem, because you are getting the audio, na?
Sir, we are getting the audio. It's okay then.
So what shall we do?
Sir, I think you just continue.
No, I'll start the presentation once again. Not once again.
Okay.
I mean, from this slide, but I'll present it once again.
Yes, sir.
I'll present it once again. Just a moment. Sometimes this helps. sometimes this helps. I'm sorry, I mean, I can't help this because it often happens. Let's go back again to that particular slide. This is the slide. Is it visible again?
Yes, sir, it's visible now.
And now, has it moved to the next slide?
Yes, now it's moving. Yes, sir, now it's moving.
So we will have to repeat this process time and again. Dr. Debra, do remind me to do that. Whenever
Okay, sir,
this
okay.
drops up.
Okay, sir, sure.
Now, what happens is, it's often said that science communication is best done, some people say, could only be done by scientists. Okay, if you accept that, that is your concept. That is not my concept. Science communication is a different art altogether. And you have to master that art in order to be popular, in order to put through your message to the audience, which is your, the intended audience, the target audience. Now, there's an example. There are so many examples all over the world. Just to give an example, in 1948, okay, in the middle of the last century, the year was the solar maximum. So what is the solar maximum? I believe many of you know that the solar prominences, or better put this way, the solar activity that rises to a maximum about 11 years. I mean, the interval is about 11 years. So 1948 was the year of solar maximum. People didn't understand what it was. A solar maximum can play havoc with your power structure. Power means those electric connections that goes to your home. So 1948, BBC had Fred Hoyle, and Fred Hoyle was teaching in a college. He was also in need of money. The college salary was not enough. So he agreed to the BBC proposal, and he lectured on this, and it started on the New Year's Eve, and on January 8th the program was broadcast. It went so well that they received numbers of letters, and here, as it is written, that the letters were being received ahead in July as well. So it was very popular and it was rebroadcast. But Fred Hoyle, his relation with BBC didn't stop at this point. He delivered several other lectures, and those are memorable ones. Some of those are on CD, DVDs also. These are still available on the net even. Now, Fred Hoyle is important in another way. He is the teacher of one of our celebrated scientists, Dr. Judicious Use. He studied physics, or specifically astrophysics under him. He also studied the art of communication from Fred Hoyle. And once I asked Dr. Narlikar, who taught you the writing science fiction? He said, no, none other than Fred Hoyle. So Fred Hoyle has been a fountain of inspiration for several scientists around the world, and one of them is Professor Narlikar. We move on to the next slide. Dr. Devral, you have to tell me, has it moved?
So it's
Is the slide?
Yes, sir.
Writing a radio script, right. Now, moving into the depths of the art of science broadcast. Now, you can go and speak before the microphone and it will be broadcast. You can go unprepared. Of course, if you are a big shot, if you are a very famous scientist, you can go. But I can tell you, I can assure you, your broadcast won't be effective, won't be popular. Might be one or two sentences, might be excellent, that might catch the imagination of the listeners, but the whole of it won't be effective because you haven't composed it well for presentation on radio. So for writing a radio script, what you need to do is write short sentences. Your sentences should not be like those Brazilian anaconda snakes, which after you have seen the head, when you reach the tail, you forget what the head was like. It is so long. Your sentences should not be like that. It shouldn't be complex. It should be simple words. Colloquial words. Why colloquial words? Because you don't know who is listening to your program. You might have some target listener in your mind, but you don't know who is listening. A farmer who has studied till say class 10 or say 10 plus 2, he or she might be interested in your program. So why don't you let him or her enjoy what you are speaking? So your words should be chosen carefully, and those should be colloquial words. Signposts. What are signposts? In one talk, say of 5 or 10 minute duration, you change topic, say after 1.5 minutes. But you don't let them know, you don't give an indication that you are changing topic, you are remaining on the broad theme, you are dwelling on the broad theme, but you are shifting to another smaller area. So let them know that you are changing track, so they are initiated, they know what you are doing. You give them some exciting anecdotes. Don't make it very dry. Without exciting anecdotes, it is not lively. So you have to give exciting anecdotes. Appropriate facts. Now with Google at your fingertips, you have so much of data, so much of information. You can just pour it, taking from Google, from the internet, you can just copy and paste and read it out. That won't do. That won't be effective. See, you have to tell them appropriate facts that actually strengthen your argument, not things which actually beat about the bush. Judicious use of statistics. When you use statistics, we are very fond of using statistics. I mean, but too much of statistics, even not too much. I mean, it should be presented only where it is necessary. So judicious use of statistics is necessary. Again, limiting to small duration. A radio talk of 20 minutes is of no use, not effective, doesn't make any sense. It should be limited to 5-6 minutes. So that is the order of radio broadcasting, science broadcast. Now interviewing. You might be a scientist who is being interviewed. You might be a broadcaster who is doing the interview. Now, you have to keep in mind that the listener is not an expert. Suppose, I'll give you my own example. Last night, I was interviewing one professor who is retired and who worked in metallurgical engineering section department of the IIT Kharagpur. And he was telling me how steel, which is used for building a ship, gets brittle by the action of hydrogen, and hydrogen gets in through different channels, from water during welding. Now, the listener doesn't have an idea of what is this. I mean, he knows about steel, okay, but there are several types of steel. He doesn't know about that. Though these different types have different names, he is not aware about that. You have to make a proper ground, prepare a ground so that the listener starts understanding what you are saying or what the expert is saying. Now, the interviewer is not an expert. That you have to accept. You yourself is not an expert in this. You might be from the area of biotechnology and you have come into astrophysics to interview a scientist. So, the interviewer has to do enough study to make it understandable to the listener. Again, the third most important point, the expert is not a broadcaster. She or he might think that, well, broadcasting is not a great thing. I am doing so much of science, so much of exciting science. My papers are being published all around the world in so reputed journals. What is broadcasting? A simple thing, I'll go and just tell the people what I'm doing. No, that won't do. That haven't worked. Not my experience of all the veteran science broadcasters. They know that the expert has to be explained what is wanted of him or her. So prepare her or him before the interview starts. Now, why, one pressure that acts on the mind of a scientist is the peer pressure. He thinks, if I don't say this much, my friends or my competitors in the field will think, I am useless. I haven't studied enough. I'm not doing good work. I'm not doing sound work. So he will keep on speaking paragraphs after paragraphs. He might be bringing a script and he might be reading out the script. This won't do. So try to lessen the peer pressure and tell him, sir or ma'am, this is for the listeners who are uninitiated. We have to tell them what the whole thing is. So please don't take the peer pressure in your mind. I mean, you won't be able to utter the word peer pressure because that will offend her or him. You have to tell them that please relax and use colloquial words. Tell them in a friendly manner, in a casual manner, but very important, serious facts that can be done. Now, the recorded material is in need for editing. You cannot just put or mount the rush material. You have to edit that so that it sounds smart enough. And do not hesitate to intervene with your question in the interest of the listener. Many an interviewer I have seen, they remain very frightened at the sight of big scientists. See, your work is supreme. Nothing is more important than your work. And your work is broadcasting. And for broadcasting, you need content. The content is being provided by the scientist. But the scientist doesn't know the art of broadcasting, you know it. So you go for questions. You stop him in between his speech, long diatribe. Stop him and ask him pertinent questions. And at the end of the interview, summarize. Because 15 minutes, 20 minutes interview, people might lose track of what you have said. So at the end of it, please summarize. Now I'll tell about one format that is very effective, radio play. See, every person in this world loves a story. Be it from mythology, be it from some contemporary story, they love a story. Dr. Debral, is it moving, the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's moving.
Okay. So glad to hear that. Now, this is one radio play based on the invasion of Martians. They invaded Earth. Not in reality, in fiction, and you know the fiction, War of the Worlds, that was turned into a radio play, and that was broadcast in US, and people in a particular, I mean not the whole of US, where it was broadcast, people got frightened because they had not listened to the opening announcement, and that's why they were frightened. They thought some creatures from other worlds might have actually invaded and they are killing people by thousands. So they started contacting the police station, started contacting the fire service, contacting all the administrative sections that they could get hold of. And it was, I mean, as you can see, they terrified the whole nation. And not the whole nation, I will repeat, because it didn't, the wave didn't carry to all parts of US, a section of the United States of America. People were so frightened because they had not listened to the opening announcement. Actually, there was a program in some other channel which was very popular. Now, Orson Welles, I'll go to the next slide and you will see, Orson Welles, who was producing the play, he took a challenge that will beat the other channel with some exciting program, with some out-of-the-box program, and he actually made a radio play from the novel War of the Worlds, and people were shifting from that channel to Orson Welles' channel, and in shifting, they actually missed the opening announcement, and they thought that this is not a play, this is something real. And in that play, you have some reporting as well. So they thought this is a real reporting. And for that, they lost track of the whole thing. They thought Martians had invaded us. Now, this is Orson Welles doing everything in his studio. And the company was called the Mercury Theatre Company. And Orson Welles later on moved to films, of course. And he is known for his wonderful films, path-breaking films. Now, soon after the War of the Worlds hit the airwaves, terrified audiences across the United States started packing up the station wagons and leaving them. You know what station wagons are? I mean, big big vehicles, where they could put all their belongings, I mean, if not all the necessary belongings, and they could move from their town. They were thinking of fleeing their town because their towns were invaded. So this is what radio play can do to a nation. Radio play can catch your imagination, can drive you frenzy, crazy, and this actually had happened in US during the broadcast of the play. Now, we have taken this format for science broadcast. Here you see the photograph of Pandit Madhusudan Gupta, and a radio play was produced on his life, and he is credited with having performed India's first human dissection at Calcutta Medical College in 1838. And a few minutes ago, Dr. Tyagi was referring to science serials that Vigyan, Prasar and All India Radio has been producing and presenting since 2008. So this is a long partnership, and this is a very fruitful partnership. We are all proud of this. Okay, give and take some. I mean, not always we have been that successful, but overall, people have appreciated us. They want to listen to programs conceived by Vigyan Prasar and produced by All India Radio. And these are being produced in so many languages around the whole of the country. And I'll go into that in the next slide. But radio plays, apart from those science serials, are also being produced in AIR centers. This is an example from AIR Kolkata. And if you want to read about radio plays, I mean exclusively, you will find only one article from the whole of the country, and that was incidentally penned by me, composed by me, and that is called, the title is Radio Play the Kolkata Story. Just Google Radio Play the Kolkata Story, you will get the article. But that is not necessarily about science play. We are today focused on science broadcast, science plays, etc. Now this is a photograph from our meeting. You see Tyagi here, Dr. Prasar is here, our radio colleagues are here. So that was on climate change and global warming. That was in 2019. We keep meeting at several centers around the country, and this has been going on, this producing docudrama since 2008. This is again repeating the same thing from 2008. Now, who are you writing for? Suppose you love drama. You are a fellow who has acted in theaters and you love drama. You want to be a part of radio productions. You want to write for radio. You want to write a script for Tyagi. What are the things that you should keep in mind? First, ask a few questions. Who is the target audience? Students only? No. This is a big no. I mean, if the parents are not educated, the student, the kid cannot be educated. That is my take on this. Scientists only, not at all, because they won't give you much importance. Some of them are different. Some of them will go for it. Some of them would listen regularly. Like I will mention Professor Amitabh Rai Choudhury, who is a very famous astrophysicist, and he has been listening to my programs, he and his wife, for the last 20 years, and I get reports from him. So there are exceptions to the rule. I mean, so our jobs. Problem again, Dr. Debral? Any problem, Dr. Debral?
No, sir.
Okay. So,
No, sir.
okay. Ask again. Is it the job seekers who are the only listeners? They might want to gather some points from the broadcast that might help to enhance their general knowledge. They are welcome. Housewives, no strict definition. Who is a housewife now? I mean, women work in offices, come back, work in the home. They are homemakers and office makers, if I can use the term, simultaneously. So no strict definition. They can listen. Shopkeepers, vendors, definitely welcome. Definitely, because marginal people, I mean, shopkeepers are not necessarily marginal people. They could be very rich people having at their disposal all sorts of communication. But there are marginal shopkeepers as well, vendors as well. So they are definitely welcome. Villagers only? Never. That is a wrong idea. Completely wrong idea about radio. Never. There is no clear distinction these days. Because the UN, the United Nations, has already said that in a few years' time, 65% of the people will be living in urban areas. So, which is a village actually? I mean, how many real villages are there? So, villages are fast turning into urban centers. Educated or illiterate? Both. Each category receives lots of info. But the point is, radio has an advantage. Those who are not literate, those who cannot read the newspaper, can easily listen to radio, can enjoy radio, and they have been doing that. Persons who are visually challenged listen to radio as a matter of principle. Their only medium of communication and entertainment. Senior citizens who have a problem with their vision or who are not enjoying the blah blah on news channels, they also enjoy radio presentation. So all of them could be your listener. So you are not writing for any particular person or particular group of people. That you have to keep in mind. Not students, not job seekers. No, you have to make it general. So what is the objective? You have some objective when you are writing on something. So inform about the theme, create awareness, and do entertain. See, science broadcast is not being sort of tight-lipped. I mean, you cannot remain tight-lipped on radio. I mean, silence doesn't work. You have to speak something. But entertain through your words so that they do not switch off or yawn. Yawning in the classroom is acceptable. Yawning on the part of listeners is not acceptable for a producer. Provide some action plan for the future. When you leave, you should allow them to have some takeaway points. Give some action plan. So that is the idea. I mean, that is the motto of writing a script for a radio play based on science. Develop a storyline first. We are not getting enough number of writers these days. And in fact, Tagiji would be able to tell you more about this. And why we are not getting enough authors for this type of things? Because they do not understand the art of this thing. I mean, this science broadcast, writing a script. A neat storyline has to be developed where there are scene changes. Some people write a script where a professor is lecturing, 2 or 3 students are there. A professor keeps on saying, telling them theories after theories, reels out facts, statistics. And people there's a music in the beginning, there's a music at the end, at the conclusion, finished. This is no radio drama. This is no drama at all. This is no enactment at all. So you have to, a neat storyline should be there, just like a moving river, where there are scene changes. From a classroom, you move to the marketplace. From there, you move to a laboratory. You come back to the house. You go back to the college canteen where there are chit chats about some scientific thing. They might not be correct in every dialogue, but allow those dialogues to be uttered so that the ambience is created, the entertainment is created. Various settings. That's what I was saying. And crisp, short dialogues, as in real life scenarios, should be there. Crisp dialogues, not lengthy dialogues. Boring dialogues. No, this doesn't work. A classroom situation is the last thing, as I said. A family where a kid is constantly being lectured is very, very boring. You have to move away from that. You have to think differently. Now, the scientific part that has to be delivered with ease. Choose the minimum of science that fits the radio play. Minimum of science. Later on, they can go on the net. They can buy a few books. They can try to understand, but you have a fixed time allotment, and within that time, within that duration, you have to tell them what science this is all about. I mean, what it is all about. So choose the minimum of science that fits the radio play. No long lecture, radio talk speech is acceptable in a radio play. Real life examples instead of loads of statistics. The idea, this is most important in radio, science broadcasting. The idea is to initiate, not educate. You cannot educate in 15 minutes broadcast. That is not possible. Even in 30 minutes is not possible. The medium is different. You have to keep in mind the features of the medium. So the idea is to initiate, not educate. Now please do not repeat facts and stats. This might be necessary for a particular radio talk, but for a radio drama, do not keep repeating facts and stats. When delivering stats, put that in perspective. You see, some people would say, our state has produced so much of food grains in the current financial year. So many lakhs of tons. What does it mean? What am I supposed to understand? Am I supposed to understand that it is enough? So put that in perspective, that last year so much was grown, this year this much has been grown, this is an increase of about 2%, still there is a gap between the production and the demand, and the gap is around so many tons. That puts the whole thing in perspective. So you have to, when speaking of environment, when speaking of the amount of carbon dioxide being released in the environment, you have to keep those things in mind. Radio spots, these work wonderfully. UNICEF recently has aired several radio spots, and many of those were produced by All India Radio. I also contributed, and this should be crisp, very short duration, innovative use of spoken words, music and sound effect, and must have a lingering effect. It's not just that it passes away and doesn't leave any imprint on your mind. That doesn't work. I remember, sorry, I remember TV spot about conserving water. A kid had just learned to walk, and his mother extends her arms to welcome the kid because the kid has done something, achieved something. But the kid starts walking, bypasses his parents, his father and mother, goes to the corner of the room. At the corner of the room, a water tap is running. He goes and turns off the tap, and there the spot ends. This is such a wonderful message delivered through only, less than a minute spot. So this should be crisp and must have a lingering effect. About live program, this is written in Bengali. It is called Vigyan Roshike Darbare. This is a different challenge. When you go to a live studio, people will advise you, don't go for live science broadcast. This is difficult. This is not films. This is not like rock music, band music. This is science. But I took the challenge, and for 20 uninterrupted years, I had presented from 1999 to 2008. I had presented science live, phone-in. What did I say? I say, I'm not a scientist. I am a science broadcaster. What did I add to that? I said, this is not a classroom. This is a platform where you can share everything that you think about science, that you don't understand about science, and facts that you really understand. So I brought all on the platform. When necessary, I called an expert. The arrangement was made before the program started, every time. So it was aired at night from 10 to 12 midnight. Think, this is a time when people generally go to bed and don't like to listen. But for 20 uninterrupted years, people kept asking, what is your content for the next program? And even now, the other day when I was visiting a marketplace far from my house, someone identified my voice and said, Dada, aren't you doing these programs anymore? I said, no, I'm in an office. So, and office rules are peculiar. So it has been stopped after 20 years. So that is unparalleled in the history of broadcasting in South Asia at least. And that was proved when in 2018 there was a Global Media Summit in Delhi. And I asked each and everyone, have you ever heard of this in your country, be it Vietnam, be it Philippines, be it Papua New Guinea, a small island, be it, because this was Asia-Oceania thing, be it Australia, no. 20 years, live science broadcast, they're not there. So something, I mean, I consider this to my biggest contribution to science communication. And you have to have a command over language, because without fluent speaking, you won't be able to explain the things, you won't be able to take the questions that would be sometimes, I mean, more often than not, very awkward questions. You have to take that, you have to resize that question, modulate that question, and give them the answer that they missed during their school life. Might be he is a management professional, might be she is a nurse. She still remembers her classes, and she didn't understand a particular fact about entropy. What is that? What does that have to do with our life? You have to give them an answer, and you have to tell them that science is a method. There is no fixed answer. What answer I am giving today, that might change. So science is not thus far and thus far further. It keeps on changing. Science is a method. It's not a magic. So with that, I conclude. I might have bored you. Might have taken more time than was allotted. But anyway, Anu ji and Dept ji, this is what I had to say. And I stopped sharing my screen. And it's over to.
Thank you very much, sir, for delivering a highly interesting and informative talk. Your lecture is included every relevant point of presenting science on radio. Such detailed guidance is not even presented in books or articles. Sometimes storytelling seems very easy, but the planning and hard work behind telling a science story is huge. You have explained the deep insights of the subject on the basis of your extensive experience, which is truly valuable for beginners. There are people who are interested to work in this field, but they turn down due to lack of guidance. Sir, I would like to say that this talk is a complete guide for such people to understand the art behind the science on radio. Mostly science communication via print or digital media is discussed, and people didn't get to learn much about science on radio. Thank you very much, sir. A heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for taking a keen part in this digital program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much of praise. I mean, feeling shy a little.
No need. There is good things coming more, from my side also. I have to open my Pandora box. So there are few more feathers in his cap. In the sense that there are many people who have been into broadcasting profession, but Manas is one of them who has tried to theorize his own experiences by publishing many of his articles in technical communication journals. So that come out to be like when I did my PhD, I also requested him to provide me those literature, in the sense, because it's all in the minds of people. Nobody tried to document them and publish them into scientific journal. So he is one of them. He is equally like into the profession and also into the academics as far as the communication is concerned. And because why this radio has now regained its importance again after 90s, because in 90s there was a shortfall in terms of the medium, but after the emergence of FM and the community radio, this medium is again at the forefront in terms of communication. And so far as India is concerned, I think if we look at the All India radio coverage, so we had, I think it's more than 98% of geographical area of India is covered by All India, the different frequencies. And currently we have been using FM and as well as medium wave, both the method of broadcasting, because just now our radio serial is being on air in I think from 121 air station, which include 14 FM with a repeat broadcast. I think it is also being broadcast from Dehradun. It is rebroadcasting from Dehradun. So more detail can be find out from Dehradun air station about the timing of the current radio serial. So radio, thank you Manas ji for guiding us on the docudrama, but for our students, I think they have many more options in terms of delivering a talk, जिसको विज्ञान वार्ता बोलते हैं. And then there are interviews also where you can take an interview of different people, and live science, which Manas has taught is the most difficult in the sense like finding the instant answer sometimes is not available. This has happened many times. Even we had one discussion with Professor Yashpal for one question, and there was no answer for that also. And also the many more format can be explored. That is an area of research. So I request all our participants to try to combine, different format in a one format, or try to evolve a few new formats for radio. Because now, besides the All India Radio, the community radio is coming up in a big way in India. There are already more than 220 active this community radio, which can also be like your area where you can develop a program for those community radio. So I hope this was a very learning experience for all of us, including myself also. And you can have seen the power of radio, how the Martin attack and all the Americans were, totally, ran on the street. They thought that it's an actual attack. So this is the power of broadcast. So thank you, Manas ji, for sharing some of your experience and insightness about your broadcasting experience. So thank you very much, sir.
So first of all, I would like to thank you, Pratim sir and Sahu sir. हमारे बीच में आज उन लोगों ने जो हमें समय दिया है और दोनों ही डिफरेंट सब्जेक्ट्स पे जो हमें गाइडलाइंस मिले हैं, जो उनका लाइफ टाइम एक्सपीरियंस उन्होंने शेयर किया है, दैट इज रियली वंडरफुल. मैं कुछ छोटे छोटे एक्सपीरियंस यहाँ पे शेयर करना चाहूंगी. विल टेक इट एज अ डिस्कशन फॉर 5 minutes ओनली. मैं साहू सर से बात करना चाहूंगी कि बहुत साल पहले व्हेन आई वाज इन कॉलेज एक अपॉर्चुनिटी थी. पूसा कैंपस में एक साइंस म्यूजियम है, एग्रीकल्चर साइंस म्यूजियम. तो हम लोग वहां पे गए थे और वहां का एक अपने आप में एक अद्भुत एक्सपीरियंस था. मुझे आज भी याद है वहां पे जो एक वाटर साइकिल होता है, वो वाटर साइकिल को पूरा उन्होंने प्रेजेंट किया हुआ था. द थंडरिंग ऑफ क्लाउड्स एंड द फ्लोइंग ऑफ वाटर, ईच एंड एवरीथिंग. बट वहां पे सारी चीजें अगर हम देखें तो वो इंग्लिश में लिखी हुई थी. और अगर हम साइंस फॉर कॉमन पीपल की बात कर रहे हैं, उस समय भी मैंने ये सोचा कि हम लोग, क्योंकि आई थिंक मास्टर्स में थी, मास्टर्स इन बायोटेक्नोलॉजी आई वाज परस्यूइंग. सो हम लोगों को वो समझ में आया क्योंकि हमें वो पता है कि साइकिल क्या होती है. वो एक सेंसर था, वी जस्ट टच्ड एंड इट स्टार्ट वर्किंग. पूरा उन्होंने एक वाटर साइकिल वो वहां पे दिखाया. लेकिन अगर मैं इसे कॉमन मैन की रेस्पेक्ट में देखूं तो वो उसको कैसे समझ पाएगा, क्योंकि जो वहां पे लिखा हुआ, अभी बहुत पुरानी बात हो गई, 10-12 years बैक. अभी आज के प्रोस्पेक्ट्स में जिस तरह से आप लोग काम कर रहे हैं, वहां पे क्या ऐसी पॉसिबिलिटी होती है कि लैंग्वेज बैरियर्स को हम ब्रेक कर सकें, या किसी तरह की असिस्टेंस वहां पे रहती है जो लोग उनको गाइड कर सकें. और इन 2019 ड्यूरिंग IISF वी विजिटेड साइंस सिटी कलकत्ता. हमारा 3 दिन का प्रोग्राम वहीं पे था. अनफॉर्चुनेटली उन्होंने साइंस का जो म्यूजियम था उसे बंद कर दिया था और हम लोग वहां अंदर तो नहीं देख पाए, लेकिन बाहर का सब देखा और कई लोगों से बात भी हुई. बट ये क्वेश्चन वहां पे तभी भी था और आज भी है कि अगर एकदम मैं किसी ग्रामीण परिवेश से किसी व्यक्ति को, जहां पे एक बच्चा भी हो, एक बुजुर्ग भी हो, एक पूरा परिवार में उनको इस तरह की जगह लेके जाऊं, तो उनको क्या मिलेगा समझने के लिए, उनकी लैंग्वेज बैरियर को देखते हुए और उनकी जो भी एजुकेशन है उसको देखते हुए कि अगर वो बहुत ज्यादा एजुकेटेड नहीं है तो आज के टाइम में हम किस तरह से चीजों को देखते हैं. जोड़ पाए हैं. मानस सर इज हियर.
Yes, I'm here.
सर एक क्वेरी है एक छोटी सी कि जैसे हम लोग जब साइंस को बात करते हैं क्लास में या लैब में या जब जहाँ पे की जो ऑडियंस है वो आपके सामने बैठी हुई है, तो जैसा आपने कहा कि वो आपको देख सकते हैं, आपकी बात को समझ सकते हैं, वहां पे आप बहुत सारी जो आइटम्स हैं उनको आप यूज कर सकते हैं टू डिपिक्ट समथिंग। लेकिन जब हम रेडियो में चले जाते हैं तो देयर इज नथिंग, ओनली द वॉइस। तो जो वॉइस है कलाकार की जो वहां पे रेडियो पे उस समय डिलीवर कर रहे हैं, उन्हें अपनी वॉइस के साथ ही प्ले करना होता है। तो नॉर्मली जब हम स्टोरी सुनते हैं तो वहां पे प्ले करना एक अलग होता है, उनका सोच उसके पीछे अलग होती है, एक्सप्रेशन अलग होता है। बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू साइंस, साइंस में आपके जो आपका एक्सप्लेनेशन है, आपका जो वॉइस के थ्रू प्ले करना है, एक साइंस का जो इमोशन को शो करना है, आई मस्ट से
आप म्यूट कर दीजिए।
इसके लिए किस तरह से हमें अपने ऊपर अपनी टोन पे या अपने एक्सप्रेशन पे किस तरह से काम करना होता है?
This is a very important question, Anuji, and I really appreciate you asking this. Now, when I speak before the students in a journalism class or a science writing workshop where people from different walks of life attend, what I tell them is that there are three elements that constitute a radio program. First is spoken word, second is music, third is sound effects. I'll repeat, first is spoken word, second is music, third is sound effects. Sound effects, as we all know, whether the street noise, whether the sound of the running stream, whether the sound of the running train, these are sound effects, right? Now, as you have asked, radio, I mean, the mention of radio generally brings up in mind देवियों से जनो आपके सामने हम लाए हैं आज के गीतमाला. But this is the thing that you conjure up when you listen the word radio is mentioned, or as at best you generally think of some radio play that caught your imagination in your childhood or in your college days. When it comes to science, it is not much different, but for the fact that this is something which has to be properly planned before presentation. We instruct all the RJs, all the presenters to prepare a script. Most of them do. Some try to bypass the instructions, that is well known. But in case of science broadcast, you have to write a full script. You cannot just speak impromptu. And again, I repeat the line that the idea is to initiate, not educate. And tell them that science is not magic. It's not like tomorrow there will be a medicine for cancer. A few leaves from this plant and a few fruits from that plant would be mixed and given to you, and that would cure cancer. Science is not like that. That has to be kept in mind. This is not magic. This is a process that has to be developed day by day, step by step. And of course, the sweet voice of a presenter gives you an added advantage. I am suspecting that Madam Anuji might have, during some time, has acted as the anchor or say announcer or presenter, whatever, in some station, in some program, and she has the fondness about all these programs. I believe I am right. So, but when you speak about it, see, speaking of environment is not much of a challenge. You have the stats and facts just at your fingertips. You say there were so many rivers have dried up, and we are not getting enough water, either for drinking, either for other purposes. So we need to conserve our rivers. So how to do that? We should not be dumping our garbage in rivers. This much of science is relatively easy. But when it comes to, say, basic physics or basic chemistry, there lies the challenge. How to put it before the audience. Suppose how the sound wave propagates. This is something challenge, and you have to take some similar incidents that are that people can easily understand. So those similarities will drive the point home, will tell them what you are trying to say in an effective manner. And for that, a script has to be developed first. That is the prerequisite. And see, anything, be it classical music, be it gardening, if you want to achieve perfection, you have to work over a long period of time. Science broadcast is no exception. You have to, because, see, Vigyan Prasar has been trying to organize classes. NCSTC has been doing that for quite some time, but I don't think this has really caught up around the country. Vigyan Prasar is spending a lot of money these days. In fact, they have selected some states for giving training to some school children. But these need to be, I mean, more need-based, more widespread. So that is the answer I could give you. I don't know whether I have really answered your question, but that is what I think.
Thank you, sir. It's okay. I think you have answered quite well. Maybe some points are still there, because when it's science, expression, actually how to relate expression with science, when we are only announcing something, it's really different. It's about to think how it can be done.
No. So I get your point. You are talking about the intonation. The intonation factor is very important. When a presenter speaks, the words are there, the tone is there, the volume is there, but the intonation is a different thing. The intonation tells the listener whether the presenter is feeling happy about it. If you are just reeling out facts, you are not interested. The producer has asked you, see, in between two compared musical programs, you must give 2 minutes of science news. And that fellow, that lady or that gentleman is not very happy with that.
Right.
But if he or she takes it seriously and presents it in a manner that he or she is enjoying presenting these facts, the listener will also enjoy. That applies to everything.
Because when we are physically present, your expressions communicate so well. The listener is enjoying, the delivering person, who is saying he is enjoying, everyone is enjoying or not. Or it's a very boring lecture, like it's just going on without any emotion or expression into that.
Exactly. Anecdotes are important. You bring in anecdotes, tell them about Fred Hoyle, as I have said, tell them about, about C.V. Raman. In fact, C.V. Raman, we want to, often this happens, we want to avoid clashes between scientists. We want to say that. But these are also important, because C.V. Raman and Meghna Shah at one point of time did not see eye to eye. This is written. I mean, no imagined thing. So you have to integrate that into your text. That make it real life. Don't let them think that science is something different. Okay. वो सब जो डॉक्टर लोग हैं, इंजीनियर लोग हैं, साइंटिस्ट लोग वो करते हैं, वो हमारे बस की बात नहीं, वो हम नहीं बताएंगे आपको, वो छोड़िए ना, गाना सुनिए ना, खुश रहिए. No, this is not the way we speak science. When I speak, I feel elated, I feel agitated, and I allow that intonation to get into my voice.
Right.
So that I think should be.
The enthusiasm, the happy feeling, everything should be communicated with your voice also. Very well said, sir. Thank you, sir. Now you actually answer my question. Thank you very much. So we'll move on with the formal thank you note.
Thank you, sir, for giving me such privilege, and it's an honor for me to propose a vote of thanks for such a renowned personality which we have today with us. So, on the behalf of Samvetbharat and on the behalf of our convener, Dr. B.K. Tyagi, sir, I take immense pleasure in extending my sincere vote of thanks to Dr. Narottam Sahu Advisor and Member Secretary, Gujarat Council on Science and Technology, Gandhinagar, for gracing the program. Thank you, sir, for explaining various aspects of science communication and explaining how national science centers are helping in building the scientific temperament among students and explaining how different programs are actually helping in taking science to common people. So thank you so much, sir. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. ManasPratimDas, Program Executive at All India Radio Kolkata, for providing his valuable time from his busy schedule and supporting our program from his gracious presence. Thank you, sir, for making our participants aware of how radio is working in the field of science communication and how it is taking science to common people. And also, thank you for explaining how we can write a good radio script. Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative talk. Now, we are extremely thankful to Dr. Nakul Parashar, Director, Vigyan Prasar, and our convener, Dr. B.K. Tyagi, Scientist F. Vigyan Prasar, for continuous guidance throughout every step of the program. Now, I would also like to thank all the participants, all the students, research scholars, professors for their presence in the program and showing their interest in every lecture. Finally, I would extend my heartfelt thanks to our Honorable President, Shri A.S. Debral, our Vice President, Dr. Anu Singh, and the entire team of samvetbharat for their support and contribution in organizing this event. Thank you very much to all of you. Have a nice day.